Welcome back to I Did This Instead of Killing Myself, a stand-up comedy podcast in Greenville, South Carolina. It's the week of November 7th, 2022. Thank you for listening. My name's David Bakker. It is a beautiful day in Greenville. Rainy, but beautiful. Hope you're having a good start to your Monday morning. We have a very funny, awesome guest today. Larry Griffin, Asheville comic, one of my favorites. Love Larry. Larry is a writer, comedian, beach dweller. He's got a very unique style, very smart guy, likes to rant about what's wrong in the world. He's a very talented guy. He's creative beyond just stand-up too. In addition to comedy, he writes articles. He writes a lot about crypto, tech, finance, kind of freelance stuff. And he also has some great short stories available on Amazon. And I checked out a couple of these that sounded great. I haven't read them yet, but he's got, what are these? This is a short story by Larry Griffin, Fortuna, a crime thriller story. In idyllic Fortuna, nothing is as it seems when a murder sparks an island-wide witch hunt. Retired detective Stefan grudgingly gets involved. He also has written a story called Once Upon a Debacle, the story of Wine Dark Sea, a retelling of the Odyssey in his own style. And then one more. I'll list one more because I like all these. These are all available on Amazon and linked below. The story of Misfit Stories Volume 2. The story of Blood and Sand. A couple goes on the run from a violent satanic cult through the desert. So these are great. I'm assuming they are. Larry's talented. So, and just to give you an idea of the type of guy Larry is, this is a Facebook post he wrote when he was coming down to do the podcast. I love the self-awareness of this. He wrote, "Down here in Greenville to do David Bakker's podcast. Being on the radio last week gave me the bloodlust for more media appearances in various forms. I never wanted to do a podcast out of two fears, that it wouldn't be unique and that not many people would listen or care. Maybe I'll try one if I ever figure out more ways to get my work out there and get any kind of renown. But it's like being a piece of hay in a haystack. Props to those for making it work for him, for sure." Yeah. Love Larry. Good guy. We had a good interview, went for about an hour. I hope you enjoy it. Check everything out that Larry does. He's an awesome dude. Very funny. Again, yeah, you got to see him on stage to get an idea. But anyway, before we get to the interview, though, here's what's going on this week in local comedy. The week of November 7th, 2022. Got our usual open mics here in Greenville, beginning tonight at Coffee Underground. That's No Expectations Comedy. Travis Thubb, Craig Holcomb. That starts at 7. Get there early. Tons of people are coming now. So get there definitely before 6:30. I'd recommend getting there at like 6 now. On Tuesday, we have the Radio Room hosted by Bill Reiner, Jeff Thompson, or myself. That's 8 o'clock show. Show up, sign up. In Columbia, we have the Art Bar hosted by Patrick Fowler. That's an 8:30 show. DM him to get a spot ahead of time. We also have on Tuesday the Odd in Asheville hosted by James Harrod. That's a 9 o'clock show. On Wednesday, Ben Jennings has another show at the Lounge, Comedy at the Lounge. Great lineup this week. We have Jalen Orr, Becca Stenhoff from Asheville, Ubad, and Art Sturdivant, also from Asheville, as our headliner. That's a 7:30 show, and it's free. Awesome show for a free show. Also on Wednesday, we have Tom Emmons, Swamp Rabbit Comedy, open mic at VFW Post 9273 in Piedmont. It's a 7 o'clock show, 6:30 sign up. No Comedy Zone this week. There's a show there on Thursday called the Board Teachers Tour. There's 2 shows on Thursday night, 5 and 7:30. Tickets available at greenvillecomedyzone.com. On Friday, we have All Jokes Aside at Habiba's Mediterranean Restaurant, hosted by Dante Anderson. That's a 9 o'clock show. And this weekend at the Comedy Zone, we have Dion Mojo Brooks, November 11th and 12th. 4 shows, 2 shows at 6 and 9 on the 11th, Friday, and 2 shows on 6 and 9 on Saturday, the 12th. Tickets available at greenvillecomedyzone.com. And I wanted to shout this out. I just saw this, but there's a new open mic. I don't know if this is just a one-time thing or not, but comics definitely show up. This Sunday at the Comedy Zone, there's a tailgate open mic from Jokes Out Loud. The show is going to be at 6 o'clock, and the sign-up for this will be on the usual list from the Jokes Out Loud Facebook page. They'll put that list up on Wednesday at 5. So that's kind of exciting. Another open mic for comics who want to do time on Sunday. Right now, there's no mics on Sunday, so I usually like that as a time to rest, but why not? We can do more comedy. So come on out to that if you're an audience member or a comic. All right, that's it for local comedy. Hope you guys have an awesome week, and hope you enjoy my interview with Larry Griffin. Here it is. Larry Griffin.
How you doing?
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, no, it's good to be here.
First of all, I apologize. I just was very rude to Larry because I was supposed to get off this conference call at 5. Didn't happen. And how long were you waiting outside?
Oh, like 15 minutes, I think.
15?
Maybe more.
Oh, only 15? I thought it was
maybe
worse
20,
than that.
something like
Okay,
that.
maybe I don't know you that big. I
Yeah.
apologize. 15. That sucks. Is it cold outside?
No, not really.
Not really?
I didn't even need this jacket. I don't
You
think.
didn't even need the jacket? Well, the
I
jacket
bought
looks
the jacket
good.
just in case it was chilly, like it was last night in Nashville. But
Yeah.
it's pretty good here right now.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. It was one of those corporate conference calls that I just kind of had to be on.
I mean, you could have pretended that never happened, and you could have just swept that under the rug.
I could have.
So yeah.
For the interview, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
for
well,
now.
that's how. Yeah. I don't know.
We are filming, right?
We are filming.
Okay. You said for the interview, you meant that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I just say whatever's like
Yeah.
true and really happening. I don't know how to do podcasts. Have you ever been on a podcast before?
I think once or twice at least.
Once or twice.
Yeah,
Okay.
at least once.
I actually noticed right before you came here, you posted a post on Facebook
Yeah, I said that,
said
yeah.
you were coming to do the show, and you actually had some thoughts and opinions on.
Yeah,
on
well, no,
it.
because I don't have my own podcast. Like most comedians have a podcast, but I never started one because I'm like, I don't know who would actually listen to it if I did. And
Yeah.
so, that
It's
was
an
the main
excellent
reason.
question.
So, but apparently you figured it out. So.
Not
But yeah.
really. But you know what we named it, right?
Yeah.
I did this instead of killing myself, which the name is kind of the spirit of that idea. Like, who the hell would listen to a podcast?
Yeah,
Who
right.
cares what we have to say? So it's
I
kind
hope
of like
I'm not making you spiral into some depression by asking you that by
no.
posting that.
Oh, dude, I've thought about all
So, yeah.
existential. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of an existential, troubling name. I think my parents were worried when I first named it, but it was supposed to be self-deprecating. Like
Yeah.
everybody's got one. The only reason I did it was because I had nothing else better to do. Like I was so bored. Instead of killing myself, I'll do this project. I think
Right.
some people are disturbed by it because not everybody has dark senses of humor like I do, or
Yeah,
a
I
lot
feel
of
like
comics do.
comedians more often have a dark sense of humor.
They do.
Yeah,
Do you have a dark
kinda
sense of
need
humor,
that.
Larry? Would you describe yourself?
Yeah,
as-
I'd say it is. I mean, most of a lot of what I do is I watch horror movies, and most of the jokes I make are fairly morbid, just because
Morbid.
it's just fun for me. It's just entertaining.
Yeah. Well, dude, I love your stand-up. I
I appreciate
seriously
that.
am a huge fan. Like for
Yeah.
real. I like everybody's.
I'm very big with people who will say that to me one-on-one on the street, but then like I'll never find like anybody else. It's like that's what I'm trying to reach.
vouching
though.
in front of 6 people.
Yeah,
right now
I'm
that are
trying. That's what I'm
watching
trying to
this.
reach. Though I'm not disparaging you. I'm saying that's who I'm trying to reach. It's the one person at a time who likes it. And then
Yeah.
we eventually build it up.
Right,
over
like you have
time.
a niche
Yeah.
where there's certain people.
Yeah,
that
it's happened
really
for years. That like I'll get random people who tell me they like it, and I just got to keep capitalizing on that. But,
Right.
But yeah, that's really all it is.
Well, what I like, I mean, you're like how you're speaking right now. You talk the same way on stage, and you'll
Yeah.
just get right into a topic, and you'll rant about something. And I don't want to like burn material or
Yeah, of course,
exactly,
yeah.
but
I learned on the radio last week that it's a bad idea to do stand-up material not in a stand-up context. So I
No.
didn't want to do any bits here.
you had to go on the
But
radio to learn that.
I was on the radio promoting my show in Asheville that I was doing.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, do like a bit. And I tried to do something I was kind of working on, but then I realized like immediately I realized like it's not a good idea.
Was
to
it
do
was
that.
it bombing in front of them?
Well, yeah, pretty much, yeah. And it's like that. I should have brought that up. I should have been like, this is like, they understood that I was working on it. Like, it's not like a finished joke. They understood that.
Right.
But I shouldn't have done it at all. I should have just
Right.
said like it wouldn't work. It's the same way here
Right.
as put on stage.
Well, there's
So,
just something about it because, like, to me, like the stuff you talk, and I won't give specifics, but
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the style to me is like you rant about something that you are really annoyed with or something that's absurd to
Yeah,
you, and you just will go off on it in a way that like dissects it and talks very quickly. and then points out how absurd it really is.
And the thing is, like I do that because it doesn't work when I try to do it in a more mellow or like conversational.
No.
Like, I'm only really funny if I'm being angry and like very animated. That's the only way that my
Right.
humor seems to work. I've tried being more mellow, and the only way it works is if I'm just doing that like as a contrast to build up the shouting again.
Right.
You know, so
Right.
So yeah.
For sure. And it's I don't know. I don't even know if this is accurate because like I'll make weird comparisons, and I to me this is what I thought of. But like you know how Lewis Black has like a ranty type style.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And also Woody Allen kind of there's like a neurosis to it. That's not I'm not saying it's bad, but there's like this kind of like, you know, going over it and over it and over it.
I hope that's the only way I'm comparable to Woody Allen.
Yeah.
So,
Dude, I think so. Yeah,
I would hope
I think
so,
you're
but-
respectful towards women. Actually, can we talk about that? Because I don't even know what he got in trouble for officially.
I've never really seen any of his movies. I've only seen like one or two of his movies.
Annie
And
Hall.
like as far as I know, like he's a rapist. That's what I've heard. so yeah,
Wait, rapist?
it's like it was some kind of weird sexual assault. Like I really don't. I
Was
shouldn't
it
talk about
was it
myself.
statutory like underage
It was
women?
something. It was something like a.
Problem?
I'm not exact. We shouldn't really talk. Neither of us know what we're talking about. We shouldn't really get too deep.
Yeah, I
into
need
it.
like a
But apparently,
producer or
like, he's
something, somebody to like Google and check all.
We need like a guy like you know the Joe Rogan guy. Or
Yeah, we
whatever.
need
That's what
Jamie.
you need. So yeah, you know.
Yeah, we need
So,
Jamie.
yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, that whole style, I just there's a quirkiness to it, there's a uniqueness, and I really do, appreciate it.
I found it's a good community up here. It's good to be a part of this whole community up here in general.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. You be talking about the Asheville community?
Yeah,
specific-
Asheville. It went to here too. Like this is just an hour down the road, so not that big of a difference. So,
Yeah,
so, yeah.
for sure. How
Well,
much
I haven't
time have
been
you
here
spent?
in 6 months.
You haven't been here in 6 months. Yeah,
No.
how much time have you spent in Greenville, like over the course of you doing comedy?
I was. I used to have to be here when I first moved here last year. There was no open mics in Asheville except for the Odd,
Yep.
and so I had to come down here to do mics. And so I got to know a few people here, like Adam Schulte and
Yep.
you and some other people.
Shout
and
out Schulte.
and I got to know them a little bit. But then this year I've had some other things going on. I didn't have the time to come down here as much. But I'm hoping to try to balance that a little bit more.
Okay.
'Cause I really do enjoy coming down here, just get out of town once in a while.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's nice.
so-
And people down here haven't heard any of your stuff, so you can, bring
Yep.
whatever you want to do. I like doing that. So you moved to Asheville last year, you said?
Last June.
Last June.
Yep.
From where?
Orlando, Florida.
Is that where you're born and raised?
Yeah, lived there for a long time when I was born there, and then I went to college in St. Augustine, and moved around to about half a dozen little cities to do journalism for a while.
Okay.
And now I just work remotely, so I can go anywhere to do comedy if I want to. So.
That's amazing.
So yeah.
So Orlando is kind of your home, and then St. Augustine.
My
and-
parents still live there. St. Augustine's like my second home. I just like going there to hang out.
Okay.
There.
I gotcha. So journalism. So you were talking to me about this the other day. Now you do tech finance journalism.
Right now, I write for like a tech finance website, and I'm not going to say the name of it because
That's
I
okay.
think it's all anonymous, and I want to keep it that way so I can say whatever I want on the internet.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. It's kind of cool. It's kind of like
so yeah.
WikiLeaks. Is that anonymous?
Well, no, I mean,
Is there anything else like
but
that?
by anonymous, I mean my name's not on the stories,
Right.
and so because of that, that way I can say anything I want to online on social media.
Yeah.
Because my name is not attached to this website.
Sure.
So yeah.
Maybe, yeah, I wonder if that's an answer to some of the problems we have in journalism today.
Yeah, maybe.
Like
I
if
mean,
people
what
were
problems do you
anonymous?
think there are in journalism?
Well, just how it's based on, well, I guess it maybe wouldn't solve it, but it's based on clicks,
Yeah.
and how there's people have a tendency to write these attention-grabbing headlines when the story itself is not as substantive. So you'll get political commentary on the left and right being very exaggerated, or they'll just put up things for shock value. It tends to make the readership or viewership more polarized, and
I feel like that's
just because they're
mostly what it is
desperate for attention.
it's the click. That's really what it is. It's not really about the politics at all. It's about the fact
Right.
that it's for the clicks.
Right,
you know?
exactly. So
You know?
left and right, that to me, like
Yeah.
it's and people aren't actually getting the real substantive.
There are a lot of stories
news,
now, like
'cause-
because all these websites have been laying off all of their employees. A lot of these stories are nothing but like tweets just quoted. Like
Yeah.
there's just whole stories of like a few paragraphs and then a bunch of tweets from random people.
Yeah.
and, like the random people who are just sitting in their living room writing stuff on their phone. Like that.
and that those are
those
the sources that are cited.
So yeah, like the whole article is nothing but that.
Okay.
It's insane. So,
Do you write more substantive pieces for?
Yeah, I mean, not really right now. I mean, it's not tweets, but it's just mostly just short pieces just firing off is what the news is. So
Okay.
It's not like opinions, though. So there is that.
I
know?
gotcha.
Yeah, but it's not like huge, long, detailed pieces, though. It's just boring stuff. It's not really that interesting.
It's not that interesting.
So, yeah,
Oh, I
just,
want to talk
you know.
about it. It's not.
I mean, we can talk about comedy if you want. I mean, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to like finance stuff. Very
really?
very casually. Like I'm not an expert in it, but I like to
I
invest
was never
in
interested
stuff.
in that stuff. It was just something that I do for a job, honestly.
Okay, so you're
Yeah,
not,
I mean,
okay.
it's
If you
just
don't have a
something
personal
I
interest,
learned to be able to write about anything. So,
Okay.
So yeah.
What is? Do you have a preferred subject matter of what you would write about from a journalism
I
perspective?
mean, I don't know. I like writing about just people. I like writing about long, like describing an event and interviewing people and all that.
Okay.
And that's not really what I'm doing now.
Okay.
So,
What you had in the past though, when
Yeah,
you did
like, I've had
bounce
many
around to
different
those
jobs where I've
small
done that.
towns. Do you have a favorite story you've ever written?
I mean, people always ask that. Not really.
Not really?
It's just, there's a lot of different stuff over the years. It's
Can
kinda
you
hard to
give me
pick
one that you really liked?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's nothing really. There's nothing I won an award for or anything. So,
Well, that's okay.
yeah.
That's okay.
So yeah.
Okay, so you got
I
nothing.
mean, but what the writing I'm actually proud of is like my fiction that I put up online, and it's like just a bunch. I do,
Let's talk
like,
about that. What is
yeah,
the fiction
I
you
put
put up
some
online?
stories on my website, which is lgriffin1991.com, and I'll tell you that like when we're not on the air. So
It's
yeah,
linked
you can
below.
point.
I will link it.
All right.
L Griffin.
lgriffin1991.com, and you can I'm gonna put some stand up on there as well. I want it to be like everything that I do, really. But
Sure.
like
All
right
your
now,
creative
a lot
writing.
Of it, when I put up the site, I wasn't really doing a lot of comedy. It was mostly just like fiction was what I was more doing at that time.
Okay.
Because it was just coming out of the quarantine, so I wasn't really doing a lot of comedy yet after that, except for open mics.
Okay.
So yeah.
I gotcha. So what was the fiction writing? Can you talk? Can you give us a teaser a little bit about that?
I've been writing stories since I was just a little kid, and I write. Like these days, it's taken me that long to get published. Like I write these days, I write horror, I write thrillers, and there's all kinds of stories. And like there, I got two things coming out, hopefully at some point soon. One, they're both crime fiction.
Crime
both
fiction.
like very like sort of gritty crime stories. Like I like to watch and read myself, and hopefully there'll be some more news on that at some point.
Okay.
One of them's kind of based on some stuff in my own life, but I spiced it up and added some action to it and all that. So
Yeah. You got a crime drama in your own life?
yeah, not really crime. It was everything else in the story. I added the
Okay.
crime component as well, just to make it more interesting.
Okay. I gotcha.
So yeah.
What up? So you have horror stories that are on the website?
I have a couple horror stories. They're a couple years old now, but there's one that's like a vampire story, and there's one that's like a sort of a western western kind of situation where these two kids are being chased by like this satanic cult in the desert. Like it's a pretty badass, like an action story. So kind of I would want to see that myself. So that's like what I want to do. That's what I want to see myself. So I wrote it. So,
Sure.
So yeah.
So if you, I haven't checked out your website yet. So if you go on this website and you, are all the stories listed there? And what kind of reading time are people looking at?
Yeah, I mean, most of them are pretty short, so I don't know exactly what kind of reading time. But I mean, you can take your time and read through it. There's no, there's no restrictions.
Like how many pages do you think?
Probably like 20-something pages for the short stories, maybe a little bit more for some of the longer ones. But
Okay.
it's all kind of short fiction. There's no novels yet, really.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, to me, that's actually a really cool kind of length to have your stories dialed into. Because
I feel like it's
nowadays,
good to be able to tell a short story to have a good, concise length.
right?
You know?
Because I have a hard time. Like some books, like I actually want to read. Like I actually like to read, like or try to read, like novels and. Like I kind of like to get philosophical, so I'll pick Russian authors or like longer books, and I'm just my attention span. I just don't have enough time to get through it.
What kind of stuff do you like? Like what author?
Well, Dostoevsky.
It's been a long time since I read him.
Yeah.
I read some of his stuff a long time ago. I really don't even remember. I should probably reread some of it. At some
Yeah. It's easy to read. I mean, I feel like it's pretty accessible language.
No, yeah.
You got to check all the references because the Russian references in there. Like
Now
I usually have like a couple
Two
bookmarks.
bearded guys talking about Dostoevsky. That's
There is a
now.
podcast?
No, I mean now this is a podcast now.
Oh yeah.
Now it's a real podcast.
Am
Now
I a
we're doing
bearded
this. What's that?
Did you say two bearded guys?
Bearded guys. Yeah.
Am I a bearded guy?
I mean, you got a beard.
Does this count?
Yeah, I mean, that's close enough. Yeah,
Close
yeah.
enough?
Still
Yeah, I
get the
kind of
beard.
think it's trash, but
I mean, it's not like a.
it's not like yours. Yours is thick,
I'm
dude.
growing mine out now. I'm probably gonna shave it soon.
I
But,
gotcha. Yeah, two bearded guys talking about Dostoevsky.
I mean,
yeah,
that's just the cliche. That's like the classic podcast. We're talking about pretentious stuff. You know?
Dostoevsky's Dude,
maybe not, but I mean, I'm not
no,
saying that
this
in a
is-
bad
this
way.
is
I
good
like all
feedback.
that kind of stuff. I like literature, a lot of different kinds of stuff. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, you know.
for sure. And cause like I like it because, yeah, maybe it is pretentious, but like
Yeah.
everybody talks about the great books and like, you know, what people have gotten out of them, and they've lasted the test of time. So like, man, I want to read these and extract out the knowledge and wisdom in them. But then I'm like, dude, these are like 600 pages.
Yeah.
Or like Shakespeare. If you tried to read Shakespeare, very hard to read.
I remember I did a whole bunch of stuff on Shakespeare in college. It's been a long time since I read him. He has some good stuff. It's like you can read that language is very difficult if you're not
Yeah.
really in the mood for it. But
For
you
sure.
really
I
gotta
feel
be
like
in the
I almost
mode
need a
to read it.
professor to walk me through it, so
So, yeah.
I'm getting out what I need to get
The
out
stories
of
are
it.
really interesting, but it's like the language you really have to like sit down and concentrate. You can't just like read it like
Yeah.
while you're like in passing. you
Right.
know?
Spark Notes has a
Yeah.
no fear Shakespeare thing.
Yeah.
So you can like get a
Most of that
modern
stuff
translation.
you're supposed to like. You're not really supposed to read it. It's supposed to be like stuff on a stage, like a play.
True.
You know? So,
Yeah, that's a good point. You're supposed to take it
Yeah.
in from a live performance. But anyway, like, so I guess having a getting back to your short stories, like
Yeah.
having a story that you can digest and get a lot out of in like, you know, a 20-page, you know, read it in like an hour or less.
That's most of the ones on the website are pretty short, but I
Right.
have longer stuff coming out, which I do
Mhm.
enjoy longer stuff. So I'm glad I wanted to really give that a shot.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for
So,
sure. You want to
yeah.
write a novel at some point?
Yeah, I have written several times. I tried to write a novel length thing. It's just that
Mhm.
it's hard to get that. You have to really practice to get that right. You can't get it published because you wrote it. So
Right.
yeah, it took a long time to really get to that level where I could get it good enough to get
Yeah.
published. So
What does that look like? Becoming good enough to write a novel of that length? Because I don't even know the first thing about planning a novel
yeah.
or like how much detail to include or omit.
Yeah, I
to
mean,
hit, because
I
isn't a
just
novel
feel like
technically
there's no-
100 pages? Is that
Yeah, I
what
mean, there's a novel. I mean, technically, I guess it's 50,000 words. That's what National Novel Writing Month. You know what that is, right?
No.
It's where you write National Novel Writing Month. Is where you write 50,000 words in a month, and that's like a short, like regular length novel, I guess. Like it's
Okay.
an average length, I guess below average length novel, kind of short for a novel, but long enough to be considered a novel.
Okay.
So,
I gotcha. So you have to write. I mean, you have to write a lot of short stories to get proficient enough to feel
yeah, maybe,
confident.
I don't know if
build
you
up.
have to do that, but it's just like I just did that because I think I didn't have the patience because I just wanted to be like, all right, well, I want to finish this and see if I can get it published. And like I wanted to know if I could get something published or not. So I tried
And
to
you've
write
gotten
the short
these
stories.
published?
So,
These
yeah,
short stories
there's
published?
a couple things published in like little anthologies and all that. Some of them are through this thing called DLG, which is like a publishing house that just publishes all kind of like the more middle tier, lower tier, like newer writers starting out.
Sure.
You know?
Okay.
So yeah.
So how many tries did you do, like submitting stuff before you got one?
Probably. I mean, countless. I mean, like when you're trying to like you send emails out of your stuff, like you just send a whole bunch of emails and never get a reply. Like, They
Okay.
get so many emails. Everyone wants to be a writer.
Right.
So,
Right. So you had
That's
a
the same
lot
thing
of
with comedy,
stuff that
too.
just got nothing.
it's the same thing with comedy and writing. Like you send out your availability in comedy, and you also send out this stuff for writing. And like sometimes they're not even going to reply because they have so many people sending them stuff. Like
Right.
you're not the only one sending them something. you
Sure.
know?
Sure.
Especially for like comedy clubs or bigger venues, like
Yeah.
they won't even reply half the time.
Yeah. I gotcha. So what is your first novel going to be about?
It's about this guy who the first novel it is coming out, and it's like it is coming out. It's called the title is Lazarus and the Desert Murders, which I came up
The
with.
Desert Murders?
Desert Murders.
Murders. Okay.
And I came up with that way after it was finished. And I was also delirious from COVID and stuck inside. And I'm
Okay.
like, all right, well, I needed a weird enough title for this weird book that I wrote. And
Mm-hmm.
It's a crime story. It's about this guy who's like just descending into this criminal underworld, basically. And it just, it was just sort of stream of consciousness. I just wrote it. I didn't have a plan for the story till I was writing it.
I love
It came
that.
out.
I love
Yeah,
that.
it somehow strung it all together, and I was able to edit it and go back.
Stream
and
of
really,
consciousness writing. I bet that's
yeah,
really
I mean, it was
good.
just I didn't have it. All I mean by that, I didn't have a plan where it was going. It was just
So where is it set?
It's just a nameless town in the West. It's not really anything.
And is it set in present day, or is it
it's
set
present day?
Present day, nameless town in the West.
Yeah, I do want to try writing like historical stuff, but I'm not really probably as good as that. But he's got to practice. So yeah.
You got to do a lot of research on a historical piece.
That's what I'm not really a fan of. Like, I just want to write like this. I like writing what I already know.
Sure.
So yeah.
Sure.
But you got to do research. You got to at least know what you're doing.
Yeah. So, the process of doing it stream of consciousness, I think, is like the best way to go about it. I've heard that. I mean, I've never tried to write anything long form.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's like, you just gotta. This story was one that was simple enough that it worked out, but I mean, sometimes you really have to plan. So it just depends what it is.
Yeah.
So,
well, I talk about this guy a lot on here, but Louis C.K. is one of my favorite comedians.
Oh yeah, I mean, I haven't watched him since that whole thing came out with what he did. So I basically just owned him.
Oh well. Hopefully you don't mind this take, I guess. It's not. I'm
not gonna bash anybody else for watching it. That's what I felt like if that was gonna come up on the podcast, I'm not gonna pretend that I'm still like watching him or anything.
Oh right. Well, I think this project, for what it's worth, it came out before the the scandal involving him, but it's not ideal, and I don't condone it, but I'm still a sucker for Louis C.K. and the stuff he makes.
Well, I mean, there's people who are going to watch whatever, so at the end of the day, you can't stop people from turning on something.
So, yeah.
I mean, I get it. People are still going to watch it, so.
Yeah, there's a lot of unfortunate stuff people have done, but.
Well, that's just like my idea. I was going to see if that was going to come up about comedy in general. Because like that's really what I spent the whole pandemic not really doing a lot of comedy, and then when I came back, I was like, all right, well, what kind of comedy world do I want to be in? And I'm like, I just don't want to be involved in this whole not you, but like the larger culture that's like, oh, we'll be okay with these guys if they sell tickets. It's like I want to have just a better world of comedy where we can have a more equitable, like where we're having a better, where we don't tolerate that kind of shit all the time,
Yeah.
I don't care if people like the stuff.
I think
there's a larger culture where it's like these clubs will be like, oh, we'll book anybody as long as they sell tickets, and like that's just the bullshit. I'm not really involved. I don't want to be involved in that. So
the interesting part about comedy is that it can be kind of decentralized, so clubs can make their independent decisions. But to your point, most of them are a slave to the ticket sales, probably. And if there's people that want to see it and don't have a problem, and there's people willing to pay ticket, then that's kind of allowed. I mean, I'm more, but I see both sides. Yeah,
I just feel like it's not going to be a respectable art form. We just let that stuff keep going on. Like there's got to be a way to move forward. I mean, I know a lot of fucked up stuff happened in the past, but I mean, you got to have a better world going forward. At least you have to make sure there's something else, a better thing going on.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I don't know. I was just going to make a comment about one thing a project. I don't know if you'd seen, because this is before everything again, but it was the show he wrote, Horace and Pete.
Yeah, I saw that at one point. It's been so long now, but I mean, yeah.
Well, he had said as he was writing that it was like flowing out of him, kind of stream of consciousness, similar to your novel, and like
that's just one way
And he kind of said he wasn't trying to be too critical with what he was writing. He wanted it to just when it came out of him in a certain way, and these characters kind of emerged, it was kind of organic in that that was, he didn't want to mess with it. He didn't want to over edit it. He wanted to get it out there, and he felt like what he was doing was good because it was like what he knew, and it wrote easily is how he's described it. I mean, would you say that was similar to how it felt for you?
That's what they say about like the two different styles of writing. Like they say you can either just plan it all out or just write it as whatever you think of at the time.
Yeah.
Like whatever, one of those two things. That's usually how you do it, I guess, but it just makes sense. There's not really a lot of other options.
For sure.
But yeah.
I always feel like stand-up writing for me, when it works, has been that way. It's been like something that occurs to me, something that really, maybe like your material, where like something that annoys you or something that happens in the real world, and you're like, oh, that's an idea, and then just dumping kind of everything out you think about it.
You see how I write stand-up, basically, like it's just these huge like blocks of text where it's like I'll write out everything. and then eventually work it out on stage to the point where there's like a punchline somewhere in there. But like I'll just like a huge like a paragraph or two.
Yeah.
But like just like sort of a rant or like a little essay or something like that. And then I'll eventually take it on stage and be like, oh well, like here's how you find the beat of it and make it funny.
For sure.
It's by you just figure out what the funny part is. And then
For
just say it
sure.
a couple times.
Every time I've tried to like engineer a joke from and like make it clever or like try to like come up with something that's like, oh, I think this is good. Usually doesn't work. Usually it has to be like conversational, happened, organically, and sometimes you're surprised by what the audience laughs at. But
I mean, sometimes this, what I've been trying to get away from is like getting the cheap laugh by saying like, "Oh, that didn't work" or something like that. Like that's a very rookie kind of move. I feel like, it's something we all do, but like I feel like I wanted to challenge myself not to do that anymore because I want to get better laughs and just being like, "Oh, well, that bombed," and like that always get the guaranteed laugh because it releases the pressure.
Yeah,
the audience is like, "Oh,
I
like
still
we
do
all
that.
we're all on the same page."
I don't say it doesn't work, but I'll just be like, I'll stop and that be like where they were supposed to laugh, and I'll just sigh, look at my paper like, all right, and then go to the next. That sometimes gets a laugh. But
that's the funny thing about all of this stuff is like, a lot of comedians will tell you like comedy is just it's very straightforward. You're just saying the funny thing and that's it. But then it's so interesting to talk about how you make the jokes at the same time. Like you talk about how you come up with all this stuff. Like, it's a very interesting way to talk about it sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
Random. Like, you don't know where you're going to come up with something. It could be anything.
Right. Right.
I really have to write. I can't just rip. I'm not a good improv kind of person.
Yeah.
So,
you like to write it all out?
Yeah,
all
but
of
I
it.
pretty much have to. I can't really. If I try to improv on stage, like it'll fall flat at some point. Like maybe the first time when I first stage, it'll be energetic. But if I'm trying to improv every single night, like it'll just start to deflate like a balloon.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotcha. I tend to do better if I'm just as conversational as possible, but it's I don't know what I mean.
That's what it's supposed to be. It should be.
I'm and I'm also just a little over 2 years in, so I'm still like very new to stand up. So
what made you want to start?
Oh, thanks for asking, Larry.
Yeah.
I've told this before, so I'll keep a very short version. But I basically had no creative outlet whatsoever. But I found out that I am very creative, and I had been ever since I was a little kid. So my dad is an artist and he's a furniture designer, but I always was very much like him, and I like building things, and that was what I took joy in. But I never thought of that as a job or as something I could have an outlet for. I didn't know what it would be, but I found myself very miserable because I have a normal job and career, and it's fine. It's great. It's really good. But like, I kind of got to the end of my 20s. I'm 33 now, and I was like, you know what? I mean, this was a couple years ago, but I was like, man, I'm really miserable. I achieved a lot of the goals I set out to, and I make good money. I do this or that, but there's other parts of my life that are very out of whack, out of balance. I was probably drinking too much because I was unhappy. Not crazy, but partying and stuff. So anyway, long story short, COVID happened, and that was the first time where my job paused long enough to where I had some time. And then somebody asked me to do a marketing video for our company, just like funny work from home video. And they said, could you make one of these? They asked me to do it. I didn't set out to do it. And it's so much fun making that. And it was the first time I made something funny, and people seemed to like it. And then I met a comic here in Greenville. I just moved here. She told me about open mics. And then after the first lockdowns eased up, and in July, I came to an open mic at Comedy Zone. She invited me and didn't have anything really that prepared. I had a couple of ideas, but I got like a couple of laughs, but pretty bad, pretty horrible first set, actually.
Well, I mean, most people are, it'd be very rare to be that good if you're just starting out. You were like a natural talent.
And you continue to be bad for a long time, and I'm only now starting to feel like a little better about just saying I do comedy, even to people I know or whatever. But yeah. So yeah, dude, the creative outlet is the biggest thing for me, and once I figured it out, it made me so much happier, dude. I'm so much happier to have an outlet for ideas that feel like they're mine as much as they can be, you know.
Yeah.
So, but what about you? So you started in the journalism path in college.
Yeah, I that was just always what I always did writing. But I mean, comedy I started because I was unemployed at the time. And I'd been watching comedy for a while. I'd been going to live comedy whenever I could find it. And it was like, all right, well, now I have really no excuse but to try comedy. And so I finally just did it.
So you found live comedy.
That was in 2015 in Orlando.
In Orlando.
So, yeah.
So you found their open mic scene and basically
Yeah, I mean,
went
yeah,
to
it
some
was
shows.
a little coffee shop that it's called the Drunken Monkey, and they don't do it there now, but they did for a long time till the
The
pandemic.
Drunken Monkey in Orlando. Okay.
Yeah, they don't do comedy there now, but it's definitely a good coffee shop. So
Was that where you did your
definitely
first
go there.
mic?
Yeah, it was just an open mic there, and I was like last on the list, and I was like, I won't even tell anybody I'm going to do this if it goes bad. Man,
Yeah.
it, like obviously it didn't go great, but I was like, oh well, I can still probably want to do this again. So then I started telling people I was going to keep doing it after that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, and I think I've said it before. Is like it's kind of a miracle to me that comedians make it through their first year, because it's almost like
I think
you have to be so bad that first time or that first year. Not that you were.
A lot of
You were
them
probably
are
good.
probably delusional. That's really what it
It's
is.
delusion. It's like a protective delusion, and
I
then you
think,
realize
like,
how bad.
From what I know of you, like you seem like you're all right, but some like people who start out like they're just like they think they're amazing from the first get go, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna sell merchandise and make a website after 2 months of doing this.
Yeah.
It's like it's crazy to me. Like you
Yeah.
can do that if you want to, but like what are you selling at the end of the day? Like I don't really know. So
Yeah, for
So,
sure. I definitely had delusion, or I mean, just to like keep doing it and think you're doing okay. There's a level of delusion, but thankfully, I mean, I never had the delusion of
I mean, I feel like with
I
an
don't-
open
I didn't
mic,
s-
like anybody can do an open mic.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's bad to do an open mic.
I
I'm
didn't
just saying
set
it's-
out to like think that it would lead anywhere though.
Oh yeah.
I
just think
really
it's
didn't
funny.
wanna
It's
have
just-
an
it's just-
attachment.
It's just very amusing to me to watch how beginning comics, like, you know, even when I was starting out, I would see other people being like, oh, well, you know, I'm touring now and I'm, you know, selling stuff. I'm selling stuff and I have like a
Yeah.
Facebook page. And it's like, all right, well,
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine doing that when I was like that young in comedy. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't have anything to sell yet.
Yeah,
So-
I can't imagine
so,
doing
yeah.
it now. The podcast is as much as I want to do, because it's like
Yeah.
it's like conversations with friends, and like
Yeah.
you know, people have interesting stories, and if it's funny, great. It doesn't have to be funny. This podcast is not. Some people have said, "Dude, this podcast should be funnier."
Yeah.
I don't
Well, I
know how to be
started out-
funny all the time.
I don't know. I'm not sure this is a very funny interview.
It's
But-
fine.
but
It's
yeah, you
interesting,
did.
Larry. It's fine. It's going great. But
Yeah,
but yeah, it's funny. Like some of the like new comics, like I've seen this before, where they'll post where like there's like they'll do a poster, but the shows they're doing are all open mics. It's
Yeah, I
kinda
mean, I
funny.
feel like that's all right, but at the same time, it's like I do feel like some of them like think it's much more than it really is. Like it's
Yeah.
good to tell people where you're gonna be,
yeah,
but I'm not gonna shit on people for being passionate about what they're doing. But at
Yeah.
the same time, it's like some of them really do have like a huge ego, like for no reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know.
But the cool thing, I think, is you do it long enough, that'll get purged out. You'll be like, oh, you'll either quit or you'll be like, oh, stuff I was doing earlier. Like I do. Like cringe
It's fascinating to me to watch local comedy scenes because there'll be people who will just keep doing like open mics for, you know, years or decades or something
Yeah.
like that. And it'll be like, how do you still keep doing this at the same rate that you're doing it? Like with not going anywhere. I guess for some people it's just a comforting thing to do, which is great to have a hobby to do.
Right.
But like then some others will still have like, you know, these great these grand like illusions in their mind of like, oh, like, it's finally gonna hit big at some point.
Right.
And it's like I'm not trying to say that to bash them, but it is like I just want to know what's going on inside their mind.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you
So, yeah,
think is the appropriate progression? You're saying
I mean,
they
like-
should be moving to a bigger city,
Yeah, I mean,
or they should
no.
be getting booked on more shows and
I just
seeing
feel like
progress.
I personally I don't really know what I would say because I don't really have any great degree of success either.
Yeah.
Like I just do shows wherever they'll book me. It's not like I have a huge
Yeah.
following or anything. I
For
just like
sure.
to do shows.
For sure.
But like I just feel like if no one's booking you on any shows, then like hopefully you're at least aware of that and you're just you're
Working
assessing
on
your
it.
own talent if nothing
Yeah.
else. So yeah, you know.
yeah, you're not.
So yeah.
Yeah, you should be changing what you're doing. You
Yeah, I
should
mean,
be
like,
seeing fruits
if
of
you're
your.
just having fun doing comedy at an open mic, that's great. So hopefully that's fulfilling enough.
Yeah,
if that's all
but
you're
you should
getting.
be getting better too, and I think that's
Yeah,
even out of
yeah.
respect. Even if you don't get booked, it should be out of respect for the mic, because it is
Yeah.
actually painful if you're not putting work in at open mics.
No, yep. I
Because
mean,
the
an open mic
audience,
is
the
just like
audience, we want good audiences and we want good comics.
that's the
and-
other thing. It's like the audiences, especially up here in Asheville where I live, the audiences that some of their open mics are so great. Like up there, they're the music
They're
hall
fantastic.
and the odd. Like they have huge audiences who come to watch like hours of open mic. And I'm like, I don't even know who those people are, but I'm grateful for them.
I'm
because
so
it is a lot of,
grateful. Dude.
It's very good to have that.
Dude, yeah.
So,
Me
yeah.
neither. I agree. I don't know who those people are, but
'Cause,
God
like,
bless them.
When I
Because
would go watch a show, it would have to be really good for me to sit through, like even a professional show. Like an open mic, I would sit through a little bit of it and then leave whenever I felt like it. But some people would
Yeah.
stay the whole night. So,
yeah, I
so,
mean, I
yeah,
guess
yeah.
it can be kind of fun because each set is so short that you get a lot
Yeah.
of variety. But
think
like, you
that's why
need
they
enough
like
good
it.
people to make people stay.
Yeah, it's. I always get curious about that. I'm like, I don't know why these people are here, but it is very good that they are because now I get the good practice of actually doing a real set for these
Yeah.
people and seeing how it's really going to go.
Yeah, and I think
So,
that's
yeah.
so important to have those like real audiences because it's so hard to develop anything when you just have comics in the room or
Yeah.
only have a few audience members. So that's why, and hopefully Asheville comics aren't too annoyed by this, like because we've started to come up, like Greenville folks have,
yeah.
and
Yeah, I've
it's-
noticed that. Like all that was around the time when all the mics started to be longer.
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
guys all started to come
yeah.
up.
Asheville people are
Yeah.
probably like hating that the Greenville people
I
are
don't think.
taking up
I think
stage
they
time,
probably
but-
don't mind that much. At least, it keeps the scene lively. Keeps the scene
Yeah,
going.
yeah, and I hope
So-
that, like, I don't know. I never try to ask to go up a certain time or, if we can avoid it.
I remember that's what I used to do. Like early on, I would always just get so paranoid that they would forget, like they wouldn't even know who I was. So, like several times, I would go over and look at the list to make sure my name was not crossed out or something like that.
Right.
And then I think that gave people the impression that I was trying to like bug the host to go up earlier.
Yeah.
But I was just curious, like if I was
Yeah.
going to go up at all. So,
Yeah.
'cause people didn't know who I was. Like the first 7 months, they had no
Yeah.
idea who you are. So,
Yeah, for sure. I
So,
kind of
yeah.
feel like if you're in out of city that's not your own, you should just sign up anywhere.
You really got to just learn. You learn that eventually to stop like bugging the host at all.
Yeah,
Like, don't even
just
ask
don't
them at
say
all.
anything. If you go up
So,
dead
yeah.
last, that's freaking fine. You're a guest there.
Yeah, no, it's good that you have that perspective. Some people are very annoying about it.
Well,
So,
no, I mean, to me it was more common sense, but I mean, also I get it. I guess like it's a long drive, so like if you maybe give advance notice, maybe it's a little less. But in general, I feel pretty grateful that those audiences are so great, and
yeah.
Asheville does have a lot of really, really great comics. So
That's what I'm learning, like especially with how good these mics are. It's like of course you want to get booked on shows, but at the same time, it's like with so many comedians, like you really just got to enjoy the experience of doing it at all. Like
Hell
you
yeah.
can't get too up your own
100%.
ass about doing shows. Like, you just have to
100%.
enjoy it.
yeah,
So, yeah,
dude,
yeah.
I love going to those Asheville shows
yeah,
because
you know.
you get to watch good comics. You get to, I think, yeah. Have you ever been to a big city open mic scene like New York or L.A.?
No, I've been to.
Me neither.
Biggest one I've been to is probably I guess Atlanta is bigger than Orlando is.
Oh yeah, Atlanta.
But yeah, Atlanta's fairly big. I've been there a couple times, and I've been to a bunch of smaller cities. I've been to Jacksonville, a little bit smaller than Orlando is
Yeah.
scene-wise. The city is bigger.
Yeah.
But the scene there was not quite as big as Orlando had. Like this, the big comedy club and everything there. So,
For sure.
So yeah.
I guess I'd be curious to hear about like how Asheville compares to a New York City or
Yeah,
a,
I mean, I've really never even been in New York at all.
yeah.
So
I
I
mean,
have no idea.
New York is like considered a mecca for it, but I've also heard that the mics there at the open mic bottom level are pretty
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine. I'd like to go do it there, but at the same time, it's like I don't think anything wrong with doing it here. I mean, I think it's fun to do it here anyway. It's fun to go
I
around.
think you can
travel around
definitely
the
develop-
southeast and just do it there.
Mhm.
So,
You can definitely develop in Asheville, probably.
yeah, I mean,
because you have
Florida
the
had
good
its own
audiences.
thing.
Is my
Asheville,
point.
like in Asheville, you can travel an hour or 2 hours to get to like 5-6 different cities. You have 11
Right.
ways you can go, and yeah, I mean, it's all about just knowing where you can go.
Right, for sure. So, you're a fan of Breaking Bad, right?
Yeah,
Pretty diehard.
yeah. I mean, I don't know how you define Die Hard, but I've watched them several times. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember at the getaway mic.
Yeah, they were saying that. Yeah.
Katie had mentioned that you and Christian, I think,
Yeah, we had talked about it. Yeah.
are diehard Breaking Bad fans.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know how. I think there are people who like get tattoos of it and all that. Might be more diehard, but
But as a
Yeah.
writer and somebody who likes the show, Breaking Bad is probably my favorite show of all time.
oh yeah.
Maybe in the top 2, I guess. What is
What's
great?
the other one?
Seinfeld.
Oh, really?
I've always loved-
seen that actually. I need
You've
to
never
check
seen
out that.
Seinfeld?
No.
Dude.
There's a lot of like old shows. Sometimes you just don't get around to them. So I need to get
I
around to
hesitated about Seinfeld because I haven't rewatched it again, and I kind of want to see how it holds up.
it. You rewatch it again, it's like, oh, this is horrible.
I was like, oh my
It's
gosh.
the worst show I've ever seen.
Curb, I really like. I mean, Larry David again.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of observational, and again, I think that's why I like your style is because it's observational, and you kind of talk about what annoys you or what's stupid about things, and that's what Larry and Jerry
really,
would like. They nitpick stuff about things in conversation or things that are just kind of like idiosyncratic, and
Yeah, the thing was, like, for a long time, like, I tried to do, like, more political, social material, and I still do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like right now, we're in between elections, so no one really cares about politics that much right now.
Right.
So I've been trying to use that as an opportunity to expand what I write about and try to be more of a,
Sure.
open mind what I do comedy about.
break from politics. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what is? I want to hear what you think is great about the series Breaking Bad.
I mean, just this great original concept. I mean, the writing's very sharp. It's easy to watch. It's one of those shows that it instantly becomes iconic. That all the characters and images and all that, and like it's very easily identifiable as to what it is, and it's just so a lot of fun. It's very dramatic. A little bit of everything.
Yeah, there's it's fun. There's
I mean, it's
there's
surprising
humor
they
in
had
it.
to make it fun because otherwise it'd be very depressing if they didn't add some humor into it here and there. So they had to add some jokes and some lighter parts.
Right.
Of course, it gets horribly dark at the end, but
Yeah. I was just blown away by the arc of Walter.
there you go.
Yeah, how he goes from. What did Vince Gilligan? I think Vince Gilligan made this metaphor. He said the goal of the series was to take Mr. Chips and turn him into Scarface.
Yeah. Except what he actually did was he showed this guy who was Walter was always very insecure. Like, he was never really a good guy. He was always the guy who had this huge chip on his shoulder. He always felt like no one valued him. But of course, he didn't really give a lot to value. He had nothing really to value except for his huge intellect. That was the only thing that was good about him, was how smart he was.
Yeah.
Other than that, he was a pretty kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Like, he liked his family enough, but that's not really why he did all that stuff. But
No,
I mean,
it wasn't.
He obviously resented them in quite a few ways. But
Yeah. Yeah. And then he ultimately was sacrificial at the end.
Yeah, they had to do that. I mean, they had to do that because they went so far. They had to do something like, all right, we have to bring it back.
Yeah,
sort of
we have to have
redeem
some
him a little.
catharsis so Walter's
yeah.
not just, he doesn't die a piece of shit.
That's the way they could have ended it, would just have him die, like, up there in the snow. But then, of course, that'd be a very bleak ending. Like, it wouldn't be really a good ending for a TV show, really.
And there's
They
no
had to do something
redemption
else.
or no, like...
Yeah, I mean, they could have ended it that way, but I don't think that's the way the show was. They had to do something to turn it around, I guess. So that's just how it was.
Yeah.
So they didn't want to have too bleak of an ending. So
Yeah.
even though they could have, I think they could have had a much darker ending if they wanted to. But
What's your favorite TV show of all time?
I mean, I love that. Better Call Saul. The
Better
spinoff
Call
is pretty
Saul.
close. Both of those are pretty close for me.
Dude, I need to watch the
And,
end of Better Call Saul.
Yeah, I love BoJack.
You finished it, right?
Yeah.
Is it satisfying?
Oh yeah, no, it's very good. I think it's a great ending.
Okay.
I think it's a better ending than what Breaking Bad did.
Really?
Because Breaking Bad, they had sort of a fan service last episode. It was sort of a that was like wish fulfillment. The last episode,
Right.
It was like the whole series is so good it doesn't matter. But like Better Call Saul has a much more like authentic kind of ending.
Sure. Okay. Well,
So,
don't spoil
yeah.
it because this is selfish because
It's not that. It hasn't been out that long.
Spoil
I'm not gonna
everything
spoil it
except what
now.
I haven't seen.
I mean, Breaking Bad's 10 years old. We can talk about that. But
Yeah. We might. Yeah. The statute of limitations on
So,
spoiling
yeah.
it's probably passed.
I also love. I love BoJack.
BoJack Horseman.
Yeah,
Dude.
I love.
So I have not seen the whole series, but
Oh, yeah.
my friend Alexis, who's a comic, she put on this episode of BoJack. It was like the second to last episode, and it was the one where
The View from Halfway Down.
View from Halfway
Yeah.
Down. That episode tripped me out.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen BoJack Horseman, you could fast forward to that episode.
There's one that I like. That is a very well done episode. My favorite one is the last season was split into two, like a lot of shows are now.
Yeah.
And my favorite episode of the whole show actually is probably the second to last of the first part of that season.
Okay.
Which is like it was an unusually positive episode. Like it was very, very optimistic. And then of course, like, you know, the last 6 episodes were completely nihilistic, like just blowing it all down pretty much. But it was one moment that was very positive, and I think that's a very
What was the
striking.
positive moment?
It was just everything was going right for everybody. Like in that one episode, everything was finally trying to go right. And it was kind of like it was a good, like, cathartic kind of just happy thing for once in the show. Like, you know, those kind of moments, it's good to have the contrast. You know?
Yeah, for sure. That episode of BoJack Horseman, The View from Halfway Down, really made me think, because it was like a near-death experience, and it portrayed what may or may not happen in the
they do
psyche
something like that every
of the
season.
human
They have
brain.
they have some really crazy episode every season like that. So yeah, you know.
Right. And he's trying to figure out where he is. He's in this weird dream state, and there's different characters in his life that emerge. To me, it seemed very real. Like, it seemed like what would likely happen if you were about to die.
If you watch the whole show, it's immediately clear that it's like he's dying. That's basically, like, it's pretty obvious what's happening.
What's happening in the arc of the entire show?
Yeah, because all those characters are dead. That's the thing. So,
right. That episode. Yeah.
All the characters you see in that episode are dead.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and he I think had a drug overdose into the pool.
Yeah, something like that.
And I noticed he takes a sip of water, and he said, "Why does this taste like chlorine?"
Yeah.
And then he gradually realizes this could be the end, and he tries to run from the darkness.
I know when the end of that one happened, like, I had to take I actually had to work a little bit, and like there was only one more episode after that, and I was like, holy shit, like they really just killed him off. And I didn't watch the last episode for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Right.
Of course, the last episode is different. It's not like that, but yeah, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
That
I'm glad you referenced BoJack Horseman. I kind of want to watch more of that.
I said the other ones are also Community and Twin Peaks. I also really like a lot.
Okay, Community.
So, yeah.
I haven't seen Community.
I just started watching
episodes.
that over the pandemic. It's really very funny.
What's the guy's name? Joel Hale?
Yeah, he's the lead actor.
Is that his name? Joel.
That's the lead actor, Joel McHale.
Joel McHale. That's right.
It was created by Dan Harmon, the Rick and Morty guy.
I gotcha. I was not a big fan of Rick and Morty.
I liked it, but I couldn't find a way to watch it, so I just haven't kept up for years now.
Oh, I gotcha.
So, yeah, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm in the minority on that when it comes to, like, liking Rick and Morty.
Why didn't you like it?
I don't know. I thought it was kind of weird. Like, I mean, obviously it's weird, but I didn't find the characters particularly likable, I think, just to me.
Yeah.
And
like
because
I haven't watched the show since I think season 3, so it's been a while since I've really kept up with it.
Like, when it comes to cartoons, like, I love The Simpsons. I think
who doesn't like The
Simpsons? I love every character in The Simpsons. I think they're lovable, they're silly, they're stupid, but they're.
I don't know who doesn't like The Simpsons. That's crazy to me.
Oh yeah, dude, The Simpsons is amazing. It's pretty timeless too. I mean, I've watched old Simpsons clips not that long ago, and I think it's pretty darn funny. I mean.
Yeah, no, I mean, they still get the memes online all the time.
Yeah.
People still joke about it. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody loves The Simpsons.
Did you like The Office?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's pretty, broad kind of comedy. I don't know if I'd watch it over and over again, like some of these shows, but it was fun. You know?
Yeah. I loved The Office
enjoyable.
when it was on originally. Like, that's how old I am.
Yeah.
I mean, I was watching it while it was on in the, like, season 1, season 2.
Oh, yeah.
I remember, the season 3 finale when I was in high school.
That's a show that went on way too long. But
oh, for sure.
Yeah, you know.
It did. That was a victim of its
a lot
own.
of shows now end so soon, but then you forget how bad some shows got when they went on for like 8 or 9 seasons. So,
right.
So, yeah, you know.
Right. Yeah, The Office was a weird one because it had that broader appeal later because it got added to Netflix. And then people 10 years, like almost a generation after, started to love that show.
I almost I've never been traditional because I always watch stuff so late.
Mm-hmm.
It's because especially when I was younger, like, you know, I have the hearing aids, and when I was younger, like, the hearing aids weren't really that good, so I never really watched. I didn't really get a lot out of watching TV if I couldn't hear it that well. So I just caught up with stuff later on.
Yeah.
I wasn't always
you bring that. So you've had hearing aids since what age?
I was born with some kind of a hearing loss, but it wasn't really becoming noticeable until I was like 4 or 5. Or
yeah, because
like that.
was speech difficult? Like that was.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been okay, but I mean, like, it's always been it's definitely been there basically my whole life. So been not as good as it could be. So
I gotcha. Well,
some people think I'm completely deaf, but I mean,
do they?
No, I mean, some people are like they think there's nothing between like full hearing and completely deaf. So it's always kind of funny.
Are the hearing aids you have now, are they pretty good at
Yeah, they're good now.
mirroring?
They weren't good when I was like a kid and almost through pretty much high school. Pretty much they were kind of shitty, really. But like you really missed a lot of stuff. But like now they're actually they've made a lot of improvements lately.
So the technology's gotten better?
Yeah, like especially in the last like 10 or so years. Like I've had much better hearing aids.
Okay, that's great.
So yeah.
That's great. Well, I'm trying to think of where else we could go. We have to go to this mic here in a second. We
don't have to, but you just really want to.
I want to. So, well, we messaged Travis.
No one pointing a gun at us. I mean,
Yeah.
They're not going to blow up the apartment if we don't go.
No, they're not.
I like to hope they would. I don't know your scene that well. Maybe they would.
Well, there's going to be a line of people just sitting there. We don't have to end just yet. I'm trying to ask
I probably have to start work. But I mean, is there anything else you wanted to ask before we get done with this whole
Yeah,
thing?
I want to ask you some, okay, how long have you been doing comedy in total now? 2015, you said?
Almost 8 years
Almost
now.
8 years.
It's almost the end of this year, so beginning of next year it'll be 8 years.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, I had asked this before, with other guests, but it's what is, the best piece of advice you have or have ever, heard about comedy? Or
Well, I think honestly, ironically, it came from for one, my favorite comic is Doug Stanhope.
Dude, he's coming to Charlotte soon.
Yeah, he's coming to Asheville this Saturday.
Is he?
The tickets are sold out.
Oh,
but he said he said people could just go and hang out and might be able to get in anyway. So I'm gonna try to do that and see if I can get in. So we'll see. But no, he said somewhere something like pretty much any advice you give to a newer comedian is just tell them to be more like you. Which I think that's a good piece of advice because there's so many different ways to do comedy. So I really try not to. I try not to give people advice about comedy unless it's very basic mechanical stuff because there's just endless ways to do comedy. You can't tell somebody how to be funny.
Sure.
So, and most of the stuff that I think is funny, other people don't think is funny, and that's why I'm not more well known than I am. So
yeah.
I'm still trying to get out there. But yeah.
So maybe be yourself.
Yeah. I mean, if more people thought what I think was funny, then I would be more popular. I think. But I'm still trying to get out there, see what I can do. But yeah,
for sure. Do you have any shows coming up?
Oh yeah, I got the 22nd. I'm doing a show. I'm not sure the venue yet, but it's a costume contest, a comedy show in Asheville.
Okay.
And the 27th, I'm doing a show at a brewery in Charlotte, which I do not remember the name, but I'll give them to you. You can put it in a thing under this, under me pointing right here.
That one may or may not be, this episode may or may not be out before those two shows, unfortunately.
Oh, really?
But
well, I mean, in that case, then it doesn't matter.
Well, regardless, they should definitely follow you so they can be they can be notified if you.
Yeah, I'll send you all my social media and all that. And you can put it on the screen or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
So you have your website we already referenced. Where do you put out most of your stuff? Are you pretty active on Instagram?
I post
page?
stuff on Twitter. I use Facebook pretty often. All my posts are public on Facebook. And Instagram, I have an Instagram. I rarely ever use it that much. I probably should use it more.
Yeah.
And I don't have a TikTok because I feel I had too many social medias already, so I don't really need another one.
TikTok's dog shit. You don't need a TikTok. I mean, maybe people say you do. I don't know. I mean,
a lot of people.
I just post
podcast
clips on there.
But I don't know how many more social medias I need to download to just be alive.
Yeah. It's a lot. What's your Twitter handle?
It's at Griffins 1991. I had to put the S on there because it wouldn't do it without the S. So.
Yeah, Griffin's 1991.
I'll send you all that. I'll send you all the stuff.
All right.
Yep.
Well, sounds good, man. Well, hopefully this didn't feel too rushed, dude. I really enjoyed talking to you, man.
Had talking about some TV shows and things.
Yeah, we got some stuff in there.
So, yeah.
But, yeah, definitely follow Larry, man. I seriously, love your stand-up. And,
thank you. I appreciate that. I hope more people will at some point.
Yeah.
So, we'll see.
Absolutely. Check him out in Asheville or in Greenville and follow all his stuff. All right, man. Thanks for coming on, dude.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Yep. See you next time.